Hey there, this is your girl, Angela D. Stribling, with a new After Sunday podcast coming to you every Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Angela D. Stribling channel. And I'm grateful. I have another guest who he was with me and interviewed on my radio show. But I was just like, with the valuable information that he has, I think it's important to every couple of months to just bring this information back because it's such a important and dear heart thing to me because I see so much of it online. This is my insurance man, my not only my insurance man, but my friend, my former Mini Globe cohort, Mr. Walter Kizzie. How you doing today?
I am well. I am blessed. And you? How are you?
I am amazing, busy but amazing. And yeah, so I'm just grateful to have you back on. You and I talk a lot. I refer people to you because like I said, you are my insurance man, and it's important to me. That's something important to me to have, make sure our people have life insurance. So we want to just give our new viewers some background on who you are and who you work with and how you got started.
Uh, I'm Walter Kizzie. I have been in insurance for 13 years now.
Okay.
I got started, a young lady that I used to work with when I was a respiratory therapist. She went into life insurance, just insurance in general. And
Okay.
she said it should be something I should try. And then another childhood friend, I made a post about it on Facebook, and he reached out to me and said, "Hey, before you do anything, come talk to me." I went and talked to him, and the next thing you know, I was an insurance.
Is it?
I started in final expense and just handling that one little niche of insurance. But I've moved on to do annuities, index universal life insurance policies, term policies, uh, health and accident insurance as well. But definitely when we get into life, you know,
Uh-huh.
we got insurance for our cars, we got insurance for our homes or our rental apartments. We have insurance for even our cell phones. But the last thing
Yes.
insure is the one thing that you can't ever replace, and that's your life.
Absolutely. And the most valuable thing of everything you just described. Why do you think it's something that most people don't grab a hold of? Because they don't think their life is ever going to end? Or what do you find? Because you're the expert here.
Okay, I'm going to tell you what I find. Um, I find it's a topic that people really don't want to discuss because that means you have to deal with your own mortality. And
Right.
that is a concept people just don't want to deal with. It's like, I've been here, I've always been here, but there's going to be a day when you're not. And so you have to take into consideration your loved ones. And so
Yes.
I little story, it was right around the time, it was right after Whitney Houston passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to see this gentleman, and he said, "I'm not going anywhere." I said, "I bet Whitney said the same thing when she slipped into the bathtub."
Yes.
And then another person said to me, "Hey, I'm in great shape." I said, "Death caught FloJo, and she got
Yes.
death can catch you too."
Yes, yes. And one thing for certain, two things for sure. There's two dates that are going to be imminent: the day you're born and the day you die. None of us are staying here. And it's just a matter of when and to be prepared. And the reason why I take it so seriously is because, you know what I mean? I don't want that to be a burden on my kids when I leave here. Um, and I encourage them to get it. You know what I mean? And I talk about it a lot. So, for someone looking for insurance that may not have a whole lot of extra funds to expense, how would you go about helping them find a policy that would fit their budget?
Great question. The first thing I want to do is I want to ask them just what it is that they want to do as far as their final expenses go. Do they want to be cremated? Do they want to have a full burial or big ceremony? Because it's an individual thing. Some people might
True.
say, I am fine if you just take me from the street to the heat, put me in an urn, sit me on a desk. Okay, great. You don't need a whole lot of money for that.
Gotcha.
Um, So I base it on what their individual needs are. I try not to get too deep into what their financial situation is. If you tell me, hey, I don't have a lot of money, I'm saying, okay, well, are you looking to be cremated or you want a full burial? And then I balance it out against the, yeah, I have roughly, I'm just under 50 companies that I can run that through. And I see what company is going to give them the best rate for their health conditions and their age, and say, hey, this is what we're looking at. And I show them what each company is going to offer them, and I break down just what exactly the differences between the companies are going to be.
Right.
Company may pay out in, say, 3 days. One company might take 10 business days to pay out. And so I make sure they understand that, um, and say, this is what we're looking at. I was like, in the grand scheme of things, the funeral home is going to be okay if you tell them, I'm going to have that money for you. If your loved one says, I'm going to have that money for you next Thursday, I'm going to have that money for you next Monday. They're going to be
Right.
okay.
Right.
As long as they know the policies in existence and it's,
Right.
hey, they're going to be fine with that.
Right. And that's what my question was. Well, what would happen in a situation like that? Because as long as they know that it's still an actual policy in
Mhm.
effect, and they'll know that that'll be directly just distributed to them. And I guess whatever, if there's anything remaining, it would go to the family. How do you outreach to people? Do you educate them? Do you have seminars that you kind of talk about the benefits of having any policies?
Excellent question. Yes, we definitely we reach out. We reach out to communities. Um, we do some podcasts like this. Uh,
Right.
we do internet advertising, all of that. Whatever, if somebody in the community reaches out to me, or I'll reach out and I'll go into buildings. I'll go to senior centers.
Okay,
Whatever,
good.
whatever it takes. I go wherever they
Good.
be. Um,
Do you find more people are leaning towards this now, or is it still the GoFundMe kind of phenomenon happening? And why? Why?
well, the GoFundMe phenomenon is just people not being responsible for their own selves. So there's always going to be, and that's due to procrastination. And again, like I said,
Yeah.
deal with their own mortality. Um, but for the most part, um, and I hate to phrase it like this, but it's the truth. I am not in the warm and fuzzy business. I am not on the.
Right. I'm sure. Yeah.
The second something bad happens to someone that you know, or that you're related to, or that you even have a passing acquaintance with, all of a sudden, and you find out they don't have any coverage, all of a sudden it's like, I need to take care of this because I could have been with them that day. Um,
Yeah.
say, like, we all have it. Our birth certificate gives us the day we were born, but on it, it does not say the last day.
Yeah. 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 And
And go on, I'm sorry.
it can come anytime. It can literally come at any time. And then the people who your loved ones who are in the midst of mourning and grieving, then they have to then also find resources to take and make sure that you're buried successfully, or whatever steps what I mean, they can actually afford, which is the part that kind of cringes, like, what I mean, to me, because it's just so heartbreaking. So I would just, as an advocate for that, because I've had, what I mean, I've lost my dad and my brother and, my mom, and, pretty much, luckily, they had enough money saved up that they actually were able to bury themselves, to be quite honest. You know what I mean? Um, but I never wanted that to be the burden for my kids. So if someone wanted to contact you to hear, because it is very personal about like what immortality is, and I mean some people are even afraid to even talk about the word death, and understanding that it's going to happen, but they don't want to accept that if you're doing this policy, I think they think it's going to happen tomorrow, but
Right.
but you got
That
to
is
be
so true.
prepared. You know what I mean? So how can someone outreach to you and what I mean, have a consultation, and I know you'll visit homes, or how can they reach you?
Yeah. Can always email me, wkizzie, that's WKIZZIE, the number 3 at gmail.com. Gmail.com. I can also be reached at the Kizzie Organization at gmail.com, or just call me 412-475-9258. And if you can't remember what those last four numbers are, they spell Walt. 412
Wow.
475 Walt.
Nice, nice. Can you break down the different types of policies to kind of give
Absolutely. Um,
people clarity on what you left me? Where'd you go?
you got back. I did not leave. I felt you like
Really?
we
Did
got
you?
back together. We're reunited.
Can you break down the different types of policies so people can kind of get a little bit of education on it? And actually, not only does it bury you, it can actually help. Can it help with other resources for you?
Absolutely. Um, there are several types of policies. Um, one, yeah, if you're just looking to take care of your final expenses, you just want to make sure that you're put away respectfully. That's a final expense whole life policy. Um, that's going to be, a face value of the policy. It'll build some cash value over time. So
Mm-hmm.
you'll have some extra money in there for you to borrow against. Never borrow against that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The interest on that's too high, and it takes off of the face value of the policy. If things get rough and you have to borrow against it, that's why they created IULs, which is index
Right.
life policies. If you need to borrow, that's when people start talking about, hey, I want to be my own bank. That is, I don't want to get too deep into this, but there is a cheat code to generational wealth built into the IUL. Um, I did it for my grandchildren.
Well, we're gonna need to talk about that cheat code when we're done.
Oh, it's a cheat. Now, yeah, we'll talk about it, but you're gonna be like, oh my goodness. I was like, yes, it is. It is the definite cheat code on steroids. It is amped up, and
Yeah,
all you got to do
because
is
it's crazy. The
we'll
older I
talk in
get,
private, but all you have
yeah,
to
the
do
older I
is
get,
run that.
all the things that I'm doing, it's not even for me anymore. And that's just kind of my thinking. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like, what can you do to kind of leave, you know, the legacy? Because, of course, of African Americans, we weren't educated on these types of things early
I
on,
no.
right?
I've been doing IULs now for a year, and it took me all of 3 weeks to figure out what the cheat code was. And I asked my business partner, and he said, "Yeah." I was like, "Why don't they tell us?" So
Because nobody wants to give away
they,
the secrets because it's
it,
for them, right?
oh yeah, it's why it is essentially why Republicans are always. Oh God, I don't want to get political,
Right,
but
we can.
why it's essentially why the talk about eliminating Social Security and Medicare is there, because they know that there's a way where you don't need that, and
Yeah.
and and when you find out how much it costs for you not to need that, you're like, oh wow, that's it. It's like, yeah,
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
I promise you, $100 will
Yeah. You hear this, people?
$100 will change your family's will change
See?
your generations, and you're just like that's so I won't benefit from this, but my grandchildren and their children, they're straight.
Stay
They're
there.
good, and
Stay
all
there.
$100.
Stay
And
there. Stay there. And that's why it's important that we have these conversations and have this full transparency of the different resources that are out there that we haven't had prior knowledge to. So go ahead, I'm listening.
no, with that you get the death benefits, you get cash value, and then you also get you get money that builds interest. It just gets money
Mm-hmm.
that accrues. It's like, where's all this money coming from? Well, it came from you. However, it's balanced against the stock market, and when you're in the right one, it always builds money. You'll never lose money.
See there. See there. Good information. Good information. Any others?
Code.
Right. And is there and I mean, I think if we would have this knowledge, maybe it would allow us to have a little more, you know what I mean? Because in theory, the price you can actually pay for just policy to bury yourself is the price I would pay to go get my hair done. You know what I mean?
Even less.
Even less.
Even less.
Right.
Even,
Right. 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 And so I
I mean,
just want people to understand it's so important because you just never know. And it's it's never going to come at a time where you are expecting it. You know what I mean?
rarely. I mean, by the time you know when you're going past, you're already pretty ill. You say, okay,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
that reminds
Exactly.
me. I have a carrier that they give day one coverage to just about everybody. Sometimes it might cost a little bit more but if you're someone that has, renal failure or
Mhm.
COPD or on oxygen or things like that, or you just got, or you just been diagnosed as cancer free, where other companies would still give you a 2 or 3 year wait period, they cover you right away.
See, and that's another good question too. Does pre-existing conditions matter? But like you just said, some companies, or even not even that, won't even be a factor.
Right. Like earlier this year, like a lot of companies say someone has a pre-existing condition like COPD and they're on oxygen. A lot of companies won't even offer them any accidental coverage. But
Okay.
I was able to cover a young lady um, with $10,000, which her previous policy was only $3,000, and that
Mm-hmm.
$3,000 policy was $45 a month. I got her a $10,000 whole life policy, no wait period. She's on oxygen. She's got COPD, and I was able to get her a double indemnity clause on there. The normal policy would have been $30. Adding in the double indemnity for the accident, it was $35.10.
What?
She hugged me and cried.
I'm sure she did. I'm sure she did.
She was like, I was paying so much more for so much less. I was like, that's why I called you. Because
Yes.
and I know how to fix it.
Yes, yes, yes. And I like it because you're very knowledgeable and you take your job real serious and you know it. You know what I mean? And because sometimes, you get some who just give you what you think is best for you and that kind of allow you to kind of set out you lay down your whole life and what you have to give and how much you can afford. And I like that about you. You kind of go through every option and then allow us to make that decision ourselves.
Yeah, I definitely, because that's important. If I show you, how everything is, you don't have to know how everything behind the curtain works, but if I show you enough of it for it to make sense to you, then
Right. And the
okay,
value in it.
right. So that's what I do, more educating and more. I do more of this back and forth conversation so I can understand what your actual needs are, and work
Yes.
versus I'm not going to tell you what it is that you need because I don't know your life story. I don't know what your religious values are, or
Yes.
I don't know that. I can assume, but I'm not going to do that. So the only way to find out, I'm talking to you.
Right. Right. Exactly. 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 And he's a nice guy. I mean, not to just advocate him, but he's the person that I know. You know what I mean? And I'm sure other insurance companies, they, have the same knowledge and give you the same information.
I
And
promise. Yes.
yeah, and I think that's important to leave with a comfort level, especially when you're probably dealing with a population like seniors who may not have a lot of knowledge surrounding it. Do you find that you get a lot of seniors at their age still looking for policies?
Yes, what happens is with a lot of our seniors is it's something that they pretty much kicked the can down the road and said I should have, and they all say I should have done this years ago. And so
Yeah,
I was like, I'm sorry you didn't, but we can still take care of you now. The
yeah,
is if I would have saw you 15 years ago, you'd probably be just about done paying on your policy and you'd be covered for life. But
right.
now it's better for me to give you something where you have to keep paying, but it's going to be a lot more budget friendly. And so I work from there. But generally with the seniors, it generally happens, especially if I'm in a senior center, it happens because Mary down the hall passed away on the eighth floor and she didn't have any coverage. Or
Yeah,
or 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 Mr. Gary down on two had a stroke and now nobody will cover him.
yes, 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 yes,
So,
yes,
so that
yes.
those are the things that I run into, and I'm like, don't worry about that. As long as you're under 90 years old, I got you.
And how do you handle it? Because I know you do come in contact with a lot of different people, and I'm sure it's kind of an emotional business to be involved in. How do you compress that?
Um, I have a good way of compartmentalizing things,
Mm-hmm.
but I would be lying if I said to you there's days where I walk out of houses not crying
I'm
because their
sure.
stories touch me too. I'm
Yeah.
I will get goosebumps when somebody tells me something that resonates with me because
Yes.
and yes, I can compartmentalize things, but one of the things I do is when I sit with somebody, I let my humanity show too.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I don't. A lot of people like to view themselves as a salesman, and I don't do
Right.
providing a service. All I'm going to do is I'm going to fill out the application for you because the law says you need someone trained in the field to fill out the application.
Right.
I'm that person.
Right. Right. Right.
And I also know which of the companies is going to cover you regardless of what your health conditions are. So
Exactly.
I'm going to do all that legwork for you. I'm going to sort through those dozens of companies. And I'm going to tell, if you say something, you know, and I don't want to get into my family history, but if you say something and say, you know, someone tells me, hey, this relative passed away in these circumstances, I might very well have experienced that too. And I'll say, you know what? I fully understand. And now I'm getting goosebumps because I just triggered my own. I
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
triggered my
Oh, look, you just triggered your own trauma.
I did. I legitimately just did. I triggered
Yeah.
my own.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna get over it in a second.
But but that's why it takes certain people to do certain work to have empathy. You know what I mean? Like I don't want someone selling me something so personal if you're not able to have that empathy component. You know what I mean? Because then you're not going to serve me fully in what it is that it's going to meet my needs or my family's needs.
Correct. What interesting story. Just you know, a little while ago, I want to say it was back in January or February. Um, you know, says one of my clients passed away, and
Mm-hmm.
and her daughter called me, and I went about helping her get her policy paid out. And she said, "My mom always told me you
Oh,
were so you were so nice." I said, "I made your mother a promise that
oh,
needed me, I was going to be here."
yeah.
And so all I'm doing is keeping the promise that I made to her.
Oh, oh. That's you. That's really you. Yeah, that's really you. I'm glad you're my friend. And I'm glad we've been friends forever. Like I don't know.
We
I
don't
don't
have to count the decades. It's been decades.
know. When,
Decades.
I sometimes I see people and I be like, "Dang, was he one of my very first friends?" You were up there. You're like really what as a couple people that are truly like 5, 6 years old. Like I know
Mm,
you guys. You know what I mean? So we met each other in middle school though. So
yeah,
yeah.
that's why I counted them 4 decades.
Don't I'm not claiming those.
I'm claiming them. I'm keeping. We could be friends for another 4 or 5 decades.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's been a long time, but it's always I know I can have someone to call on when I need somebody who somebody has, hey, somebody's doing this and I can call and you answer right away when I call. I appreciate that because you know what I mean? I'm calling and I'm calling to have you help somebody because I know you're going to help somebody. You're going to have the integrity to do that.
Always.
Yep.
It-
Yep.
It's
Yep.
it's it's my pleasure to help people. I mean, even in my field before I got into insurance, when I was in healthcare as a respiratory therapist, you know, help people.
It's your heart. That's what your purpose is. And when it's your purpose, that's what you're called to do. Any last remarks though before we wrap it up? Anything you want to tell our viewers? By the way, he will be or and I don't know, a lot of people may or may not know on the podcast they do on the radio show. I'm also involved with Smithville Borough Council here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And we are having a Juneteenth on June 23rd. It's a Sunday. And I just solidified he will be one of our vendors. So make sure when you stop up to the field at Let's Guess Memorial Park in Swissville, PA, you stop past and see Walt Kizzie because he might have some information that will definitely be beneficial for you. And also give them your number or your email again so they can outreach to you after this show.
Sure. Again, my phone number is 412-475-9258. That's 412-475-WALT. And my email, wkizzie3@gmail.com or the Kizzie organization at gmail.com.
Okay. And
I'm
again,
not hard to find.
yes, and that is Walter Kizzie. I call him the insurance man because he's mine. And I'm Angela D. Strubling with a new After Sunday podcast. Again, you can catch us every Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, as I always say, take care, stay blessed, and remember, pay attention, ladies and gentlemen. Till next week. See ya.